I remember as a kid, in secondary school, as they say here, a high school in the States, I had the privilege of being a member of the Legion of Mary. And I remember one of the job that we were told to do as our 2 hours of Legion of Mary work consisted of visiting the nursing home down the street, which was the same nursing home where Terry Shavo was being deprived of food to the point where she died. But I remember in that same nursing home, there, our job was to talk and to make conversation with those who were there. And I still remember some of the conversations. One of the conversations I had is a conversation that embarrasses me now. Like looking back at it, I'm like, what a, it's like one of those things, embarrassing, but it still does me good. There was this old man who was sitting in his chair. He was on the quiet side, and I sat next to him. He looked at me, I looked at him, and desperately trying to make some sort of conversation, I said to him, "What's your favorite instrument?" And he said, "The human voice." And I immediately replied, stupid, brainless, without thinking, "That's not an instrument." I remember like years later, I've had so many moments where I think back on that and I thought to myself, he's right. Actually, he's right. But so many moments where I hear someone like singing and it's not the instruments, it's not anything, it's just the voice. It's just like, what a beautiful voice. I've even heard like people talking to certain voices that I love. I love like Father Brendan Kilcoyne. He has a great voice. He's just like, I just love listening to this guy. And there's certain voices in Spanish like David Cruz. It's just like just a great. Just want to like just keep talking. And there's people who when they sing, other people when they talk, and or the tone of the conversation, it's so it can be cheerful or uplifting or deep. Like there are people that every time they talk, the sound of it is it's you feel like you're becoming like recollected, like it like helping you to pray. Like, could you just like once I'm gonna record you just like talking, just like enjoy this. So there, it's true. Like the human voice has a huge richness to it, and that phrase of that man is also confirmed in the book. I think it's the book of Sirach that says, "Better than a flute or harp is the voice." And it's interesting. I was thinking recently, we were reading Lorenzo Scupoli. It's not Lorenzo Scrupoli, which is the way I was pronouncing it. In other words, his name is not Mr. Scruple, which would be a bad name for a religious guy. His name is Scupoli. So it sounds a lot like Scrupoli, but there's no R in his name. So this is a book which Francis de Sales kept in his pocket for 16 years. So it means it's a good book. It's one of those books you kind of wish, or at least hope to have on your Catholic library. Well, in this book, one of the things he says is that Pythagoras, the Greek mathematician, he demanded 3 questions to be asked every single night before one goes to bed. What have I done? Like, what did I just do today? This is a problem. If you can't remember what you did today, this could be a form of amnesia. It could be go to your doctor. No. So, what did I do today? Second question, and this is the one I want to hit home on. How did I do it? In other words, sometimes people, and when they examine their conscience, they might mention, they might think like, okay, I did this, that was good, that was good, that was good. Wait a second, stop. Ask yourself, how did I say it? Not just what you said, but like, how did you say it? Have you ever noticed like sometimes there's that little tone, that like overtone of like, as you're like speaking those words, you're despising the person that you're talking to? Yeah, it happens. It does happen. Have those moments where you're like, you ask like, what you want to say is you want to ask them if they can take out the trash. Could you please take out the trash? You can tell they just by the tone. It's not about, they're not just saying like, take out the trash. They're saying by the way of saying it, that you haven't taken out the trash in the last month. So could you please take out, so it's good to examine, it's true, isn't it? Yeah. It's good to examine like how I said what I said. How I said it. In other words, the sound that was coming out of my lips. Was I talking too soft? Was I talking too loud? Was I talking with love? Did I have a little bit of salt in my way of saying things? Was I boring? Did I bore? The way of speaking is also important. It's interesting that in Greek, there's two words for speaking. There's logein, which means to speak intellectually, in other words, a communication of ideas, but there's lalein, in other words, the way of speaking. And it's interesting in the Gospels, it says that no one has ever spoken like this man before. In other words, the tone of his voice, there was something fascinating about it. I would pay so much money just to hear, just like hear like Jesus speak. Oh my gosh, that'd be like, because even it's great. There's the guards who are trying to kill him. They heard him speak, and they didn't actually capture him. Like they were told like, okay, we're gonna go capture, and they're hearing it like as they're like marching in, they're like hearing him, and they're like, he's really interesting. No, he actually might be. Maybe he is the Messiah. They're the guards. Like they're supposed to go capture him. They're not supposed to get distracted. Anyway, just a word on like how fascinating Jesus must have been. And I think it's also the reason I'm mentioning all of these is for two other reasons. One, because today in the gospel it says, "You wicked servant, I condemn you from your mouth." In other words, we can be condemned by our mouth, not only by what we say, but by how we say it. And it's something which should make us think. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm not 100% sure, I haven't looked it up, I haven't done my homework, but I think, and I'm almost sure, that in this gospel, when it says, bring here, it's the parable of the servants who received the talents. And at the end it says, and those who did not want me to become king, come and slay them in my presence. I think the word here is actually slice their throat. In other words, this gospel is one which is reminding us of throat slicing. In other words, it's to remind us that Jesus is willing to chastise our throat. In other words, he wants us to change the sound of our voice at times. He wants us to perfect our harp, to perfect the sound of our voice even. Yes, he's that demanding. He's that demanding. And another detail is that today is also the feast day of Saint Cecilia. She is the patron saint of singers. The detail about her, her throat was actually cut. That's how she died. Was sliced. And God permitted it. And not only did God permit that, see, these things are things that we have to, just because someone dies doesn't mean that God wasn't permitting it. It's always painful for the Lord, like the death of his faithful ones. It's always painful. But at the same time, God permits it to bring out a bigger good. Saint Cecilia is the patron saint of singers, and there's another detail about her which is often forgotten. There's a statue of her when you go to the catacombs in Rome, and one of the thing is a statue, and it's a statue of how her body still is. In other words, her body was when they dug it up, it looked like that, and now they've taken it somewhere to study it. I think it's in the States. If someone knows where the body is, could they tell me? Because somebody told me, I think it's in I don't know if it's Tennessee. It's one of these places in the States where they took the body and they gave us a statue. It's no, why did you take, anyway. These are Father Renee's conundrums. I don't lose sleep over these things, but why did they hide away an incorrupt body? Who was behind that? Anyway, if anyone knows any details, they can write to Father Renee. And the other detail about it, which I think is interesting, is that we don't know how beautiful her voice was. She is the patron saint of singers, so I imagine she had a beautiful voice. But we do know what she was singing about. We do know that on her fingers, there was 3 fingers and 1 finger. In other words, when her body was left in that position when she died, she was singing with her body about the Trinity. This is important because our way of speaking should be a song. Like we should use our voice to express love. We're the only religion that can say like Jews, like God acts lovingly, God is merciful. Even the Muslims talk about Allah is merciful. But in the case of Christianity, it's different. For us, God is love. He is eternally, he is the love he is love in the most absolute sense. God is love. And Cecilia, we don't know, we don't have no recording of what she said, but what we do know is that her heart was overflowing with love. If you put a 3 and a 1, if you do a Trinitarian symbol in the moment of your death, you love and you're thinking about the Trinity a lot. And that's someone that would have come out in her singing, in the way that she would have spoken. So as we continue with this Mass, we can make that examination of conscience with Pythagoras, and we can ask ourselves, how have I spoken? How have I used this instrument which I have? Some people can play the harp, some people can play the guitar, some people can play harp and guitar. Everyone has a voice. Everyone has a voice. And am I using it for God? Amen.